Ja, liebe Gäste, sehr verehrte Damen und Herren, ich darf Sie bitten, wieder Platz zu nehmen. Wir starten in den Nachmittag. Und zwar kommen wir zurück auf die Frage, was alle diese neuen Technologien der Telekombranche für die Zukunft bringen. Sophia Isaacson hat ja das bereits aus Sicht von Ericsson beleuchtet. Jetzt freue ich mich auf Huawei. Huawei hat eine Vision für die intelligente Welt 2030 formuliert. Welche Anwendungen kommen in diesem Zeitraum auf der Basis von 5G, von WiFi6 oder der künstlichen Intelligenz auf uns zu? Da gibt es unglaublich viele Gebiete, das Gesundheitswesen, die Landwirtschaft, Transport, Klima, Energie und natürlich digitale Sicherheit. Ich freue mich auf Michael Scanlan. Er ist CTO Huawei Technologies und seit 13 Jahren in globalen Führungsfunktionen beim chinesischen Konzern. Michael Scanlan, hello. Thank you very much.
I live in a city, in a country, where all the buses are electric. Every taxi is electric. Anything on two wheels is electric. We don't use credit card, debit card or cash. 5 years ago. I live in Shenzhen in southern China, which is the headquarters of Huawei. And I'm very proud to say that I've been here 14 years in this company, which is remarkable. So when I was invited here, Switzerland, brand name, right? What do I talk about? Well, really, what do I talk about, right? The brand has been there almost forever. So in discussing with my colleagues, I thought I'd like to share with you some things aligned with the future of communications, which is now. You heard from my colleague in Ericsson, Sophia, yes, talking about the direction of this thing called video. I'd like to add to the topic of 5G, AI, and I'll explain why in a moment. Let's start with a few things, a few facts that are going on today. Pretty much 80% of all, you can call it data, information, communications, is actually not mobile. Yeah. It's actually in here. It's indoors. So we have a challenge because we build networks outside first, right? And I heard from my colleagues last night that, Switzerland, we have very, very good 4G, the bandwidth uplink, downlink, very, very good. 3 years ago when I turned on my 5G phone, the first one, the speed was just a little bit under 300 megabits per second. 3 years ago. The fibre to my home there is 1 gig. I can order more if I want, yes. The last measurement in October last year was about 500 megabits per second on 5G, to put things in perspective. Indoors, outdoors, the same. Now, of this traffic that's flowing, voice, video, 90% of all data traffic is video. Why? We have more smartphones, so there's more of them, right? But the video quality has gone from 360, 720, 1080, and now 1440. So the number of bits is more. So of course, it's all video, right? And as you heard from the morning sessions, behaviour has changed since the pandemic. If I came and spoke to the chief marketing director of every single telecom company before pandemic, and I said, I've got this great idea for video conferencing, I've got this great idea for doing remote healthcare, I've got this great idea for remote education, do you think they would be able to monetize it or launch it? Absolutely not. It's now normal. But what has become normal is it's not Netflix or Amazon Prime streaming anymore. You're creating the content. We create the content. It's all called uplink. Video is being generated everywhere, user-generated content. So when I try and present the case for this thing called 5G, yes, 5G does it better than 4G. Yes, you can achieve a lot of the things we've been talking about in 5G use cases in 4G. Let me take you on a journey. The three parts of that journey relate to collaboration, education, and healthcare. So perhaps I better bring things back down to Switzerland and say, what's important to the Swiss people? I'm not going to pretend I know, so I stole the bit on the left from the Sustainable Development Goals. Healthcare, sustainable cities, education. Yes? And then I looked at what some consultants had done in trying to say, what sort of impact can 5G and AI, and I'll come to the AI, don't be scared of it in a moment, what can it do to the Swiss economy? And if you look at the picture on the right, somebody mentioned at the beginning, we're a very affluent society. It's all about money, right? There's $5.5 billion US sitting there per year that can be improved in manufacturing from this thing called 5G. And if you look on the left, about $1.5 billion in transport, and it carries on, some in media, some in agriculture. Healthcare sitting at about $1 billion. What's in healthcare? I'll come to that. Also, I heard Reto mention this morning about Huawei's vision of 2030. You know, we've had data everywhere. Every consultant and all departments look for information to try and predict the future, which we all know the prediction is always wrong. So we have summarised it in about 8 different areas, and we have some information outside if you care to come via our little booth. And we have all this data that's talking about everything. But I'm going to focus on 3 things predominantly: healthcare, energy, and trust. Why? Because for 3 years, the last 3 years, the whole world has been talking about cybersecurity for the wrong reason, healthcare because of the pandemic, and about essentially the planet, saving the planet, which is about energy. In healthcare, what is the target in healthcare? Better quality of life, right? So we have said it's about using computable concepts in healthcare. I'm not going to go through all the data here, but just pick one number there, 5.7 million and 18 million. This is the shortage of expertise that is in the healthcare industry globally. I don't know the numbers in Switzerland, but I believe I heard your minister mention healthcare is a challenge. And other people have told me about it, not just in Switzerland, not just in Europe, in the whole world. At the beginning of the pandemic, I chose to go back to China. That was in February of 2020. My wife suggested, you'll be safer there, Paul. I'm a lot older than you might think, yes? Because they can look after you. Very interesting comment from my wife. I was living in Malaysia at the time, yes? I was in Malaysia. And when I went back there, from February of 2020, when I came out of quarantine, the first thing I had to do was scan a QR code. And the second thing that happened is my colleague from the UK called and said, Paul, how was the quarantine? And I said, well, let me tell you, I've just scanned a QR code and I've got to put in some data, so just wait for a moment. Oh, yes. All of the EU is talking about data and privacy and issues. And I said, Mark, they have my passport, they have anything, they know all about me, they just want to know where am I going to be living and working, because we're concerned about safety of our family and friends and workers. Interesting concept, how people think differently. So what has China done? By March, they were already analysing, using AI, X-rays, because at the time there was very difficult to try and test anybody. But the X-ray was conclusive. As I discussed the concept with the director of the NHS in UK, he said, Paul, you don't understand. We will never trust that. We want to touch and feel. I want to look at the X-ray myself. Okay. Have a look at the shortage of health workers, of experts. Let's have a think about the challenges in most, especially in China. You have millions of people here. Everybody rushes to the hospital because that's where the expertise is. So what this 5G plus AI does is collect information, data, and allow the AI to process it to improve efficiency. In this case, life. And that's why they did it. In 1 year, China has deployed 5G and cloud-based AI in 1,800 hospitals across China in 12 months. Now, we cannot copy what happens and how it's done from China necessarily to other countries. Of course not. I travelled to 120 countries, really, in my life, okay? But let's take another country, Thailand. By the end of this year, Thailand will have done the same to 20 hospitals. For a very specific reason. The Thai government understands the business of medical-based tourism, yes? And it understands how it can make a difference using technology. So where are we heading? We're heading from treatment to prevention. That's a prediction. Absolutely, that's correct. If you look on the right side, we've gone from one size fits all, take a Panadol, you've got a problem, or take this medication, you'll be cured, to some very clever analytics that can look precisely at your DNA, and we can tell exactly when you're going to die if you want to know that, all right, with a lot of accuracy. Yes, I don't want that either necessarily, not at the moment, right? I'm on a trajectory to live forever because there's a lot of things I have to get done, right, and I haven't done them yet. So the bottom line here is, you heard about wearables, you heard about other components. You need to collect information and have it processed. I won't use the word data because then you're going to talk about data privacy and everything. We'll answer that question at the end. If you wanted to look at the whole healthcare system, and here's just an example, sorry, on this side, an example of those. The 3 lowest hanging fruit to try and address healthcare starts with high-definition-based video consultation. I contracted COVID in Saudi Arabia. I was in a village. Didn't matter. I pressed a button and I have a video conference call with the health expert in China, in Shenzhen. It was as easy as that. Yeah. High-definition video-based consultation is normal. Remote patient monitoring. You don't have enough experts to go everywhere and provide quality of care. The third one, connected ambulances. You can't have a connected ambulance if the call drops out on the road, right? So you need a lot of infrastructure, indoors and outdoors, and you need a lot of partners to do this. This is not something a Sunrise, Salt or Swisscom can do, or a Huawei or a Nokia or Ericsson, right? We need lots of partners, and we need local partners. This is what we've learnt in China. Energy. Now, this is a tough one. The numbers are very difficult to work out. Where's the money? Remember, if you focus on the money, you focus on the money, everything is clear. But what we can say over here, not just about having sustainable energy, and I tested some concepts and some ideas. If you have an app and you know precisely when to turn on the washing machine or the dishwasher or dry the clothes or whatever, or turn on your TV, etc., as examples, and more importantly, the energy provider knows these things, or an AI knows these things, then we can map when it's green, when it's brown, when I should use it, when I shouldn't use it. So this is understanding consumer behaviour and understanding the supply. I think you're already doing some very clever things in some of the lakes using solar powers. In Saudi Arabia and in China, the 2 biggest solar power systems are being built and have been built. What's the value of ICT in some of these areas? If you look at the wind turbines, a lot of them are offshore. Difficult to manage, difficult to repair. Predictive maintenance. Where the solar panels are, we now fit AI chips in to the rectifiers, the batteries, and the solar panels to integrate it according to demand and according to how much energy is being generated. We integrate all this using algorithms so we can match it more precisely. But you can't do this if the wind farm is over there and you build a 5G network here, right? And you can't do that if you're worried about all the data being stolen or somebody looking at the information and data privacy, unless you understand what the big picture is. If you want to save the planet, and you want to save 1 billion lives, it can't be done without data. Yeah? Manufacturing, I won't go into all the detail, but yesterday one colleague quite rightly asked, and he said, in manufacturing, how do I do it? Where is it? I showed you $5.5 billion US here in Switzerland can be improved. 1% in monitoring and predicting in a factory. And it doesn't have to be the Volkswagen factory or the Daimler factory. In Malaysia, I do it with a chili factory. They grow chilies, they dry them, we take pictures of them, and on the production line, good chili, bad chili. 98% improvement in the chilies. How much money can you make or save on that? Probably not a lot, right? But to the local Malaysian company of 75 persons, small company, it's given them an edge. And you know what edge it's given them? 5 persons in that company are now have formed a digital department. A digital department, and they now go and take their AI capability in this manufacturing process, and they now do it in tomato farms and pineapple farms. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, a German company responsible for a lot of the pineapples has come to Malaysia to try and see, is this real? European company coming to Malaysia. Can you imagine? Right? So I'll bring things back down now very quickly to Switzerland because we don't have a lot of time and we'll take some questions. But if I summarise just 2 or 3 areas and I list all the use cases underneath what it does, the practical stuff, and then I try and put some numbers at the top. I didn't do this study, it was done by a UK and European research company, but on the very left-hand side in healthcare, this is how many more patients you treat. Just look at the numbers, 8, 5, 14%, right? 13%, 14%. Additional healthcare treatments. That's called saving lives. In the middle, I mentioned you've got almost $6 billion of improvement in the economy. In energy, somewhere around 6%. These are significant numbers if this is what really matters. Trust. I remember at the beginning somebody was mentioning about WhatsApp and trust and privacy, so I thought I'd start by just asking everybody, do you download apps on Google or Apple? Is the answer yes? Yes. So what's the first question the app asks you when you download? Can I steal your data? They use different words, but it's the same. And what do you say? Oh, it's free, okay. Yeah. Or I'm going to log into the Wi-Fi. Let me guess the password is probably 0000. No? 1234? Maybe your birthday. We can find all that out, right? We've already given it away, right? So what am I saying here? Trust. Trust is doing what you say you do. That's what trust is about. Where do we think it's heading? Let's look at some of the challenges. Key domains of privacy, security, identity, theft. Yes, we all know these problems and challenges. Everybody has their credit card stolen at some time or their identity taken and all these sorts of things. So we believe there are 2 key things that are required around digital trust. And the first one is to use technology. And when I just heard some of the colleagues here in the previous panel talking about which app would you use, the first thing I did was Google the app. It's on Google, it must be true, right? It's part of, yeah, anyhow. And what did it mention? A couple of security breaches in an app of choice to collaborate in a company. Doesn't everybody have, commercial in confidence, in private? This data can't be shared, I want to keep it. Do you see the challenges we have? So the next one is about regulatory policy. And underpinning all of this, which is why I'm presented it this way, is how can you use components of information and algorithms and bring this together so that the right regulatory policies are put in place that support the people. Okay? And the only way to do that is through education. Because if we are misinformed, you saw how much bullshit is there, right? It's either misinformation or disinformation of our preferred source of information. Yeah. So where's the future of education? And the future of education, as you saw, you heard people using media pads. I'll use the generic one, yeah? Media pads in their schools. Digital components. The schooling, where's it going? Tuition, where's it going? The direction of education is heading towards the teacher, the lecturer, being a facilitator of bringing people and components, information, tools together. Because quite frankly, there's more real information probably on the YouTube than there is in any, no disrespect intended, professor or teacher's brain, right? But you've got to get the right information. And our job is to educate society. When I worked with the government of Singapore for the Committee for the Future Economy, Singapore government already knew 5 years ago Shanghai and or somewhere else will have a bigger financial centre than Singapore and a bigger logistics trading hub than Singapore. So if Singapore has no resources, what are they going to do with all these people, 5 million of them, similar to Switzerland, and this money that they've got, probably similar to Switzerland, yeah? And the concept we created was we need to have companies that we can invest in overseas and manage them, grow billion-dollar enterprises around the world. That's a very different business. If it's a very different business in the future for the core people in our economy, what skills do they need? And how do we bring those skills to the people? So everywhere from, whether it's at school or at universities, all the way through to research. I love the component of research. I was in the conference in Saudi, and prior to that, GITEX. So I have similar ones October last year and February this year. And even to me, thinking I knew all the stuff in Huawei's headquarters because I sit with the R&D teams, I was surprised at the analytic capability that we have to be able to take a drug. Which drug? All of them, their properties, as many as we know, their side effects, their benefits, and then say, I found a disease like this, and the AI goes through and goes, it's probably that drug that'll help. Yeah. To give you an example, how long does that take to do? We did a similar analysis with our AI to look at all the information across the universe and to identify exoplanets. It takes 10.2 seconds to do that. A little bit of technology. You sort of need all of these sorts of things. The top there, cloud, AI, some connectivity and other bits. You need partnerships to be able to do this sort of stuff. Partnerships. You need collaboration. So we can't do any of the things I mentioned. China can't do all those things independently, nor individual countries or companies. You can't do it if you don't start with the right information. That means we all need to start from a common base. Whether it's talking about data, data privacy, what this thing 5G can do or can't do, whether or not people need fibre in their home, or whether they want renewable energy, whether they want their data private or not private during pandemic, etc. And we need to collaborate. And we need targets. So again, I work for this company that makes circa $100+ billion. Doesn't steal intellectual property, despite what you heard. It doesn't have back doors, despite what you've heard. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael Scanlan. And about the last points, you mentioned some of the questions from the audience are focused on those points because security and privacy is a big topic. So let me start with the most liked question. How close does Huawei work together with the government of China with regard to global data collection?
Okay, very good. I'm going to hire you, Rito,
Me?
Yes.
Are you sure?
To be the new CEO of Huawei, sorry, Andy, here in Switzerland, yes?
Okay.
And you will sign a contract here in Switzerland according to the Swiss law, yes? If you steal data, you go to jail. We follow the law in every country. We follow the law in every country. So every country has a separate Huawei entity. It has a board of directors. Everybody complies with the law. Okay? China does not, and the two ministers have made statements. We will not ask another Chinese company to take data across. Why? Let's go back in time and come forward in time very fast. China didn't understand the value of intellectual property. China didn't have very good privacy statements or privacy concepts, yes? If you look at all the things China is trying to do now, they're learning, and they learn very, very fast, right? They understand. Just like if Huawei steals data and takes it outside the country, we won't make 100 billion. How much will we make, Andy? Our reputation will be zero.
Okay. I can see that you are very strong on that, but I need to mention that, for example, if you take the USA, they are very skeptical about those messages that you're sending out because they are saying we don't trust the 5G technology from Huawei.
Sure. Okay, let's have a think about what does 5G technology do. I think you love your 4G here, yes? So Reto, you know every time you turn it on, all that information, yes, is very easy to hack. Yep. When you turn on a 5G phone and you make communications to the 5G network, you can't hack it. It's higher encryption, it's tunneled. Okay? It's like a VPN. You can't get access to it. So why would another administration want to delay 5G networks? Well, let's not go there. I'll answer it in a different way. Let's consider the former Minister of the UK who went on record to say there was never any issue with Huawei and security. It was the Americans telling us what to do. I work in Huawei 14 years. Andy has never told me what to say in Switzerland. I work for the CEO and the board of Huawei. I see every line of code in Huawei. I have never been asked, don't talk about this, just promote this, don't talk about that, ever. The CEO says to me, you know everything, you know all our secrets. Speak from the heart, tell the truth. We trust you.
Very interesting. Of course, I could follow on this, but there are some other questions, and let me see. Seriously, no, I mean, it's an important and very interesting
I mentioned
discussion.
cybersecurity is the most important.
And you can tell that there are a lot of prejudices as well.
Of course.
But let me see, the second highest rated question is, how is Huawei going to approach a country like Switzerland, where data protection and the emphasis of patient data protection are core to the country?
Yeah. Okay. Let's consider a hospital, doesn't matter which country it's in, and I've discussed this with directors of hospitals, yes, particularly the CIO, okay, because he controls the data and the servers and everything, and they have a couple of challenges. One of the challenges is they do not have as much money to spend on reliability or security, cybersecurity specifically, and it relates to privacy, compared with a telecom company, whether it's Swisscom or Sunrise or Salt or anybody else, or Telstra or AT&T, it doesn't matter, okay? Because the core job of the telecom companies is to provide two key things that are written in the charter for the last 100 years, certainly 50 years that I've worked in the industry, 40 years, and that is reliability, 5 nines, security. The AI systems that telecom operators have to be able to identify backdoors, hacking, theft is very, very good, okay? So now, when we approach a hospital who has limited resources, because their target is quality of care, not I'm going to build a network and run a data center, you understand, that's their target, so they're constrained. They are considering how to take things like patient information management systems and host it in a cloud. Okay, but a cloud only makes sense if you have multiple accesses, information coming in and on, and apps and people for flexibility and also for, I guess, efficiency, resource efficiency. So the best way to do that is with a hybrid. We call it a hybrid cloud. But what we specifically mean is that data which is sensitive Sensitive to whom? The hospital, the patients who are in the hospital, the government who oversees the thing, or a country. So there are technology, why I mentioned technology and regulation, there are very specific technology solutions that can guarantee this, And this is written in Huawei's charter. Every person in Huawei signs a contract with Huawei, and every year you go through training and you review it and you sign in ink. And it talks about data and privacy. We all have to sit for the GDPR exam in Huawei, and it's terribly tough. Every person in Huawei has to do it.
Brings me to the last question, which is not from the audience, but it's something that I'm curious about it. You have been working, you said, even 14 years with this Chinese big company. How is it as a leader from the West to be among the leaders in such a company?
Yeah. It's not a company for all foreigners, just as Chinese are perhaps, or any culture is not the right mix for another culture, you could say, yes. Mm-hmm.
You're from Australia,
I'm from Australia
right?
originally, yes. I'm from Australia, yes. And I worked for Telstra, so I've been in the big corporations, I've been in small companies, big companies. Mm-hmm. What I will say is, with the exception of the first company, which was actually OTC before it became Telstra, the old guys in Swisscom might remember Overseas Telecommunications because we had a connection with them when it was, a monopoly. And that was arguably, with Huawei, the best two companies I've ever worked for. Now, let me answer why Huawei. The best way to answer it when I saw an old friend of mine after 20 years. Paul, you are in Huawei. This is the best thing that could happen to you. All those ideas, you've now got a platform to take those ideas and make a difference in the world. So what what Huawei is doing, who else spends $22.5 billion, 10 to 15% of gross revenue on R&D? Who else? We've opened coming back to Digital Trust, we opened a transparency centre in Brussels. If you doubt, please send anybody, come to Brussels, open up the source code, I will meet you there, I'll show you, send your experts, come and test it. Because I chair a committee to do just this in Huawei. Where else would I get the opportunity to do that? I get the opportunity to see technology that you've never heard of, beyond silicon. You want to make chips out of silicon? Be my guest. Yeah? Beyond graphene. Yes? The optics that we are able to do. How do we move into, suddenly it seems, electric vehicles? You need a battery, you need power management, yeah? You need operating system, you need server, storage, 5G, AI. Hang on, we make all that. So the car of the future, which is now has 50% a requirement that we have, and that industry is, we just lost 30 billion because there's no 7-nanometer chip, but you don't need a 7-nanometer chip in a 2.5-ton car.
All right. Well, it's fascinating to listen to you. I would actually almost love to make a voting what people now think about Huawei, but we don't have time for that. We will have the possibility to talk to one of them or after the end of the day or so. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Good luck with Huawei.
My job is, how do we make Switzerland better? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.